However, I do think I'm going to skip the extended test because I think I'm going to return this. I really didn't need another bipod. I was just hoping that this would be cool enough for me and light enough to put on an AR. And for me, it's not. Hey folks, welcome to Bulletin Brass. We're doing something a little different today. I'm going to literally do this as an unboxing. I have not opened this. I have never actually played with a Magpul Bipod. However, then we're going to fast forward to the future where I'll have had some time with it. So we're going to unbox it. I'm going to edit that down. You're not going to have to watch the whole process of me unboxing, just the highlights of what I think as I'm going. And then we'll fast forward to my thoughts after I've had some time to compare. I mean, this is a Harris bipod of roughly comparable size and use. So the end of this may just be me talking about the experience and showing you features that I liked and disliked. We'll see what we do. So let's get to it. First, I bought this. Came like this. Clearly somebody else has already opened this, so maybe this is a previously open package, or maybe it just got beat up on the hook. I bought it retail, not online. Okay, package is kind of nice. The whole thing slides right out. We have, let me put that right there. We have a little manual here. So I gotta say, that's beefier than I expected. They're polymer for a lot of the parts, but it definitely, you can feel there's a solid core of metal, and the polymer is not thin. I was expecting it to be much chintzier feeling. Okay, that's that. Okay. There's no intermediate notch. You can't do 45 degrees, which, I mean, admittedly, can't do with these either. These are much more aggressive pop. There's no spring. It feels like it's kind of cammed against the plastic, or maybe there's a little spring-loaded tab. But there's nothing really strong forcing it open or closed. And then I like that. I mean, it's not really any different than this guy. Yeah. Yeah. I never play around with the intermediate positions on my Harris, so I was curious how solid they were. That felt pretty solid. So technically I have infinite adjustment on the Harris, which you don't have on these, because this, you got to go to a spot and it clicks in. You can see the notches. These feet are a pretty firm rubber. Doesn't feel very tacky. These, well, not much different. My other Harris is much more tacky. It's, but well, that's a lot of splay. I don't know if the video shows that. Okay. So we've got some splay there, but not nearly as much. Which, I mean, I'm putting down to, I've got a metal frame here, bent steel. versus I don't know that there's any metal reinforcing that portion of this. It may just be all the Magpul polymer. And there's definitely some wiggle in the legs even beyond that. Whereas just a tiny bit, and it's all in the extensions. There's no wiggle from here. It's just down here. Up here, there's play in the legs. And to be honest, it doesn't feel much lighter. This is pretty light. Okay, you can adjust how tight the pivot is. So that knob for the pivot is pretty snug. That I'm pretty happy with. Very gradual, nicely knurled. I feel like I've got control of it. You know, I don't feel like I'm struggling to get it to do what I want. And all that is friction. It is literally just pulling this top piece down. There's a plastic spacer here that it's sitting on, and then down against the main body. Let's face it, you're not trying to force the rifle sideways if you don't want it to go sideways. The equivalent on the Harris is right here. Nice and easy. Yeah. Similar kind of system, less plastic involved. I don't know. I am up in the air still on how I feel about it, so we will have to try it out. I think I will put it on the 6.5 to start with and just see how it feels. But the main benefit was supposed to be lighter weight. And to be honest, it doesn't feel any lighter. In this case, this is a bipod meant to be put on a lightweight rifle, or at least something you're not trying to be excessively heavy with. And I think that they succeeded in the sense that it is not any significantly heavier than this option, which is the prior standard option. I just don't know if it's going to be any better. So let's put it on a rifle and see. I will be right back. For comparison, we've got my Harris that goes on a swivel. Okay, this is a standard sling swivel mount version on the 6.5. So this is a Bergara B14 HMR. Definitely a rifle you would put a bipod on. And I mean, it's pretty good. These feet are a little more rubbery than the ones on that one. And you can see it drags a little more. I've been pretty happy with the setup. I don't have any real reason to change it. However, for testing purposes, we are going to. Okay. I know. By the way, this is a pain. It is really freaking small knob without a good grip in an awkward position because you can't get your fingers around it. So if you can see this, that's a lot of play. Now obviously you would normally front load it, so the fact that it can play like that is almost irrelevant. But that's quite a bit. But I mean, once it's front loaded, it seems to hold pretty well. The side to side pivot, I mean, I would like a little less. This doesn't have a pivot feature. It's not supposed to be doing that. Honestly, I may skip the rest of this test because I'm not too thrilled here. Yeah, and that comes off really stupid easy. I was actually going more effort than needed to put it on. Uh, it felt like it wasn't actually in place. It just floats there as you tighten it down until they grab. I was doing it wrong for putting it on. But it isn't apparent that that's what's going on. The uh, the Harris is like spring loaded, so you can feel them in place and you can be sure you're actually in before you start tightening it down. So you don't actually accidentally tighten down with one of them not lined up with the holes. I'm not honestly sure that the Harris system's better once it's in place. This seems like a pretty solid lockup once it's in place. But I am not sure how I feel about this not having a tool option to get that last little bit. And it's just a polymer knob. Uh, it's really not, I don't know, it doesn't seem that tough. It feels like if that polymer knob, which is a molded part, cracks, your bipod is not going to stay in place. And for something that's intended to get bashed around, I don't know. Like I said, if it was lighter, I think I'd be way more forgiving. Let me put this one back on. So that was a much more positive feel when I was putting it on. Once I had it open up enough to get it on there, I kind of pried it off. But it's definitely, you could feel it click in where the two prongs clicked into the swing spool mount. And then I've got a wrench for the last little bit. And notice there's more room. I can get my fingers all the way around that knob. I can get my fingers all the way around that except this last little bit here. Now, it's not a big knob. It's not super heavy duty, but it doesn't have to be because it's only doing a little bit of movement for a given amount of travel. It's a leverage system with actually compound leverage. It's not a straight pull system. And that's about all you need. Quarter turn, half a turn. It really doesn't take much, and this is on there. Now, for comparison, you notice that it's not flexing around. I mean, my legs are moving, but I can't get them to pivot separate from the rifle. So if these actually were firmly planted, you've got a much more solid feel. I've got just the tiniest little bit of play down here at the feet where they're pinned on, and the leg inside the main leg can pivot just a tiny bit. So let's be fair. We'll go up to the second notch. Yeah, still much more solid. So I gotta give it to the Harris. I think that the Magpul, while not a bad bipod for what it's really intended for, I think that the QD version, not the sling swivel version, and I think it's on an AR or an equivalent rifle, where number one, this looks more appropriate. Two, there's no spring sticking out to snag. There's less, this is a very sleek design. There's less to get in the way. There's less things to catch on things. And it's just a nicer, cleaner design. The Harris, there's a lot of little stuff sticking out. It's a better range item than it is running around in the field. Hunting, where you've got a more controlled environment for hunting, okay. For spot and stock, where you might need to deploy those legs quickly and quietly, that can be tough on a Harris. This, I get the feeling that Yeah, I can do that pretty quietly. Okay? Trying to do that on the Harris is much louder. So I think that scenario goes to the Magpul. However, I do think I'm going to skip the extended test because I think I'm going to return this. I really didn't need another bipod. I was just hoping that this would be cool enough for me and light enough to put on an AR. And for me, it's not. But that's a I think that's the role. I think that it is good for that job. I already own this, and I am happy with it, and I don't need that super silent deployment. I don't need the sleeker design. I'm not running this through brush. It's just not worth having spent the money, to be honest. So I think we're going to skip the extended field test, and I'm going to return this and get my money back, and we'll find someone else. I really can't swing the cost on an Atlas as a test. I don't need one. So, hey, if somebody wants to send me an Atlas bipod, I will test the crap out of it, either non-destructively or somewhat destructively. I can be gentle with it, or I can see how much abuse they can take, and I won't try to destroy it. But I'm not going to baby it if that's what we agree on. But it was an interesting experience. I think that a lot of people are going to buy these who just think it looks cooler than the Harris, because certainly the Harris is very old school. Okay? Harris is very old school. This is pretty new school. However, Harris has had a long time to fine-tune this design, and companies like LaRue have added their own little touches. The QD attachment, fine-tuning this knob. It's really come a long way. And you can get Harris bipods that do pivot. You can get a much more free design. This one is relatively limited. You basically have side to side pivot this way, but there's no turning. There's no turret design, so to speak. Because again, I mostly use these at the range. If I'm going to shoot prone in a more dynamic environment, I'm probably freehanding it or resting it on a bag or something like that. I'm not going to play around. I'm not going to play around with a bipod. Anyway, take care, have fun, stay safe, y'all, and keep tuned. Stay tuned. We got more videos coming. Say hi. Oof. Oof. Oof.